Welcome back to Her Shift. I'm Anna. She was stuck. She shifted. The end. Except it's not the end because you're here. This is the podcast which is all about sorting your shift out, moving things forward, life in general. For anyone who is struggling as a woman, or anything really, as a unicorn, whatever you're going through in life, if you're stuck, if you're struggling, and you just don't know what's going on, and you want a goddamn better life, this is the place to be. My name is Anna. I am your host. I am her. These are my shifts. And this is my stories and my journey about being a PMDD survivor. And yeah, what else am I? This is why this episode is going to tie in, because of the brain fog that I'm experiencing. Try doing a podcast episode when you have brain fog. Is it caused by PMDD? Is it PMS? Is it depression? Is it burnout? Is it perimenopause? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. So buckle up, buttercups, because this is a little bit jarring. But I think, you know what? You need to know this, and this is stuff that you're not going to hear anywhere else. So, shall we get straight into it? For some reason, anyone who's struggling with their health, their mental health, PMDD or not, neurodiversity or not, burnout, life stages, things like that, it does seem to make a dramatic shift around the age of 40. And it's almost like before I discovered what menopause, perimenopause, post-menopause was, I figured that you just went from one to the other. And I think I applied this to a lot of aspects of my life, actually. I was like, you can have this, but you can't have this at the same time. As in, I used to think maybe you could have depression, but you can't have anxiety, because anxiety is being like really pent up. Depression is feeling really low. So how can you have the two together? And of course you can. But I think for some reason, I just used to think, well, you can't have two things going on at once. If that made the edit, yes, I was just answering the front door. The joys of the Ring doorbell. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, I always figured that you had to have one thing at once. I don't know why I thought that. Who knows? And I think just like when there has to be one cure. Set of symptoms, there's one cure, there's one way of solving something. And I now know that's completely untrue. And it's often a mix of so many things and there's never like one answer to our health. So one of the reasons why, particularly someone with mental health, poor mental health, PMDD, anxiety, depression, one of the reasons that can get worse around the age of 40 is because that is around the time when we really start to, not always, I would say, decline into menopause. That's the way I'm going to look at it. And I didn't know enough about this subject until it hit me myself. And I thought, you know what, I work in women's health space, I know all about hormones, so why has this become such a shock? So if you've heard my previous episodes, you'll know that over the last few months, certainly this year, I am knee-deep in the shit show that is perimenopause. It's like a new level of PMDD hell. It's one that has got dramatically worse month by month. And it's affected things that even during PMDD, I took for granted. So for example, my hair, I am now doing things about my hair. As you can see, I've stopped bleaching it. I'm taking loads of supplements for it. I'm just brushing it, as you can see on camera. It's good to say it's a little bit shinier, and I have got some hair growth coming through there. But yeah, so even with PMDD, even at my absolute worst, I had loads of hair going on. It's something I really did take for granted. Yeah, it was just like, well, there's always my hair. And I had pretty decent skin too. And another thing was that my weight had never really been an issue. Like, I'd always been prone to, at certain points, putting weight on, noticing it, changing things, doing more exercise, changing I won't say my diet, but my food intake, and it would just come off. And the weird thing, well, not weird, but something that, again, I've always taken for granted, is when I put weight on, I put it on my bum and I put it on my thighs. I have never put weight on my tummy. That's just one of those, I would say it was definitely a blessing. I have never put weight on my tummy. Even when I was pregnant, it just used to go everywhere else. So And this year, it's been such a shock that since January, I have put on 2 stone, which is like 28 pounds. Yeah, really shocking. And I've also started to put it around my tummy, which again, I'm like, why is that? More so in that obviously I was aware of this. I was like, oh, what's going on? And it has been an absolute, oh, I can't remember the word. I'm like, okay, well, I'll just do this and it will come off. It hasn't. I haven't put any more weight on, but losing the weight is really, really hard. On top of that, I have had anxiety like I didn't even knew existed. Like I knew anxiety and I knew stress. And yes, there's been a lot of other stuff going on in my life that's probably aggravated it. But this is like a feeling of feeling like a tightly coiled spring all the time. Couple that with a level of insomnia that I didn't know existed. Imagine I am so tired right now. I can't think, I can't function. I mean, thank God there's like recording software for things like this podcast. I just have to press a button because I am so tired. And all I want to do is go to bed. But when I'm in bed, I'm just lay there with my eyes open. I cannot sleep. I'd say over this year, I'm lucky if I get more than 3 or 4 hours sleep a night. And usually it's a lot less than that. I don't know how I'm getting through. So I just feel like I've lost that vitality. Oh, another thing is like, so obviously hair loss, skin dryness. I am so itchy all the time, so itchy. And it's just like that capacity to multitask is just gone. That left the building a long time ago. And another thing was obviously because I used to live cyclically. So I was big on the cyclical living. I've talked about this podcast before where I work around my 28-day cycle. I work around the moon. I used to call them follicular fire weeks. So during my follicular phase, I was good. Yeah, I was really good. I mean, at that time, I could run 5 businesses. I could manage a home. I could multitask like a ninja, right? For, a short period during the month. And then before it would all go to shit, during Hell Week, like the luteal phase. But I had that. As I've gone into perimenopause, no, it's just been a constant. It's been a constant. And one of the things about me, and one of the reasons I called it her shift, and I talk about shift, is because I always, if I'm not happy, I will get down. I will struggle to a point, and then I'll go, do you know what? I'm not having this. I'm doing something about it. And that's exactly why I've got to the point now. I'm like, I cannot live like this. I refuse to. And I'm not being over the top and I'm not being dramatic. This is not fair. No one is getting a good version of me. And how can I sit on this podcast and preach to everyone about the things they need to do to shift, to have a goddamn better life? And I'm like, just barely hanging in. Perimenopause is actually the start. It's when you still have periods, you still are in a cycle. And it's the depletion of your hormones when things start to go. And this is probably going to, well, it might interest you to know this happens quite more earlier than you think. So when we think about menopause, I certainly did. I was like, well, once you're in your 50s, one day you wake up and you don't have a period anymore. And yeah, you need to slap on an HRT patch. Yeah, that sounds crude. It sounds vague. But I pretty much thought that was it. I didn't think that there would be such a dramatic effect. I already knew that because of PMDD, well, I thought it can't be any worse. And if anything, it might make things better because suddenly I won't have a cycle anymore. Oh my God, dear God, I was wrong. So, I mean, my PMDD definitely got worse from the age of 35. And then I found, obviously, I was able to manage and control that. But I would say that from the age of, for me, probably 42, I'm nearly 45 now. That is when I really noticed a depletion in the other hormones that was going on. And it's something that I've had to top up with supplements. I've had to take better care of myself. I've had to exercise differently. I've had to do certain mind shifts to calm myself down. But it's been one of those gradual things, and that's what shocked me. I really did think it's like one day you wake up and you go, "Oh, I'm menopausal now." It's so obvious because I've got a hot flush going on. Oh, I didn't mention that as well. Yeah, of course you got it. Hot flushes, like you wake up and you're drenched, like you've been in the shower, and you soak through to the sheets. And this is every night. And you're also like, I don't think I drank that much water. Where is this coming from? And this is like constant. So for me, it's not like I get a sudden hot flush, which I experienced when I had the injection to put me into chemical menopause. That was like a sudden, that was like, it started like, I don't know, maybe in my legs and used to rise up my body to my head, and it was like a very intense hot feeling inside and out. This is more probably within a minute, and it's like I've stepped into a sauna, and I'm just like going, I've reached the age of those women that go, is it hot in here? Bearing in mind that I'm always cold as well. Yeah, so there's that. So yeah, so perimenopause, it's just the depletion for me, it's a decline. And it starts, well, it can start really early. It usually starts for women in their 30s, noticeable in their 40s, before menopause in their 50s. Now, menopause is actually only one day. I did not know this. Menopause is the day, the anniversary of 1 year without a period. So if you go 6 months without a period and then you have a period, boom, you've got to go back to the start. You think, oh, I'm halfway into menopause now. It has to be, you have to have a gap of 12 months. 12 months, no period. And then it said it's pretty unlikely that you will ever have one again. And so that's the anniversary of the day. And then after that is post-menopause. I know, I never knew either. So now, if you've been following me for a while and you know that it's to do with there's ignorance and lack of empathy in this area, this also applies to perimenopause. If you go on forums for PMDD, talk about your depression, anxiety, burnout, all these things, in the main, you will find you get a lot of understanding, a lot of empathy. People are in the same boat. The problem is that when people go to similar forums seeking help with perimenopause, once they find out that perimenopause is a thing, and they're not hit by the same level of empathy, sympathy, kindness. And that's because obviously we're probably like the first generation of women that are really kicking off about this because it's been so impactful to our lives. More women than ever are being visible, are putting their lives out there, are working, are running businesses, empires, all that. Whereas I'm thinking maybe 50 years ago, obviously we didn't have social media, people weren't talking like that, you weren't having these conversations in the street, you weren't having conversations, women weren't talking with their friends on that level. And because it wasn't spoken about, they would therefore think it's just me and something I've got to get through. The stats are really scary of the impact it does have on women, particularly of that age in the workforce, their mental health, relationships. It's very impactful of all areas of everyday life, and it's something that needs to be taken very, very seriously. And I've just talked about that brain fog. I'm just having it right now, and it just makes me think I'm trying to run a podcast when I'm losing that part of my brain. But as I was saying, people aren't as understanding because there'll be some women of that age and they may be thinking about they can see that they're coursing towards menopause and they've got questions about HRT, ongoing things like that. But in comparison, some women absolutely sail for it. They have very little symptoms. It's completely manageable. And you don't get a lot of people who suffer with so little symptoms, therefore putting it out there. They do tend to be like, well, I was fine, or my mother was fine. And then you'll get women of a certain generation who are older who will also go, well, we didn't get any help, we didn't get any support. Maybe they're a little bit, bitter about that. Maybe the fact, I think I felt like that at times with PMDD. I feel that, we walk so you could, I just think it's sometimes there's like a bit of resentment there. If you've ever had to battle, if you've ever not been taken seriously, if your needs haven't been met in terms of your health. But yeah, I've seen some really mean girl behaviour in the perimenopause space. And I'm just saying it just to be aware that just because a lot of women don't suffer to that level doesn't mean it's not a huge deal, because it is. And I guess as always, just like with PMDD or our mental health in general, we just get on with it. And I'm here to say I'm not just getting on with it, I've had enough of this shit and I'm going to do something about it. As I did mention in last week's episode, I did go to the GP who asked me what PMDD was and then said I was too young to be in perimenopause because I wanted to discuss HRT. But he said he would talk to me when I was 45. I'm 45 in a few weeks, so I said, shall I come back then? Anyway, I did kick off a fuss, and I am going to be given basic bloods. However, it wasn't enough, so I found a private clinic online. I think it's BioID Health, and I had a consultation. Someone totally got it, understood what I was going through. And just like with the PMDD, where I had a very detailed blood test that had to be happen at a certain point in my cycle, I've got to have another one. And it's got to be sort of at a midpoint, like I think it's the start of luteal. They have to do it. So, but you can only kind of gauge it. And again, another issue with perimenopause is that my cycle is shot to shit, if I'm quite honest. So, since I had children, my cycle was about 34 days. So a bit longer than most, but 34 days on average. And it's gone shorter and shorter and shorter this year. And now, with my last cycle, was 21 days. And apparently this is normal. It's almost like, it's like my body, that part of my body is like ticking out. It's going, and it's going to get closer and closer. When I do get my period now, I have a ridiculously heavy, really heavy bleed on the first day. And then it's just very watery for a few days. And like I said, and then it's like, oh, I'm thinking when I get my period, I used to get that level of relief, because luteal was over and there was a crash, that the estrogen would lower and things would get easier and my progesterone would rise. And not anymore. Not anymore. Now I'm just further depleted because of the blood loss. So, yay. But these are all things that I had no comprehension of. No, and it's almost been like I've had to fully experience it to go, fucking hell, what is going on? And all right, now I need to do something about this. I'm feeling a bit better today. The other day I did have a breakdown because I obviously have to wait until I get my period, and then on the length of my cycle I have to have the blood test on the 16th day. So I was like, I'm going to have to wait over 2 weeks minimum. I can't go on like this. But then I thought, you know what? In darkest days of PMDD hell, and you've gone through it this year, you can do it. You can do it. So I will be updating and posting about my journey there. The idea being that I will get some bioidentical hormonal support. I can do a future episode on that about, obviously bioidentical hormones, synthetic hormones, the whole HRT thing, the myths, the stats, the pros, the cons, etc. Because that's talked about loads in these forums. And of course, I'm not a medical expert, but I do have first-hand experience. I've also got my own thoughts and opinions on it, which I am always happy to share. So if you're listening along and you're already thinking, right, so when PMS and perimenopause collide, all hell's going to break loose. Now you're scaring me, Anna. What do I do next? Or maybe you're thinking, oh, all this time I thought my PMDD was getting worse. Could it be I'm at that age where it could be perimenopause too? I always think it's worth looking, like I said, I'm not into exact diagnosis. And I also think that this is a time when we really do ignore our intuition. And I think that if you know about yourself, what are your baselines? What have you been like in the past? I'm not going to say what you normally like, because what is even normal? But just noticing the difference. And I would say, like for me, like I said, the weight gain was just something I'd never experienced before in that type of way. It just wasn't normal to me. The hair loss was not normal to me. And the insomnia was not normal to me. And that was a massive indication. Yes, there was everything else that went with it. And I'd been having the hot sweats at night for a number of years. But I just really thought it would be a very, very slow, not obvious decline. And one day I'd wake up and there'd be no period, and I'd be like, oh, bye-bye PMDD, and I'm menopausal, great. I don't mean to say this to scare. It's purely showing my experience in the hope that I can help others, empower you slightly, and also to say, do you know what? I've been there. It's shit. But you know what? We can do something about it. I refuse to live in this day and age with everything that's going on and the marvels of technology that's in front of me right now and go, do you know what? I have got to live like this. And you should say the same. You do not have to live like this, and you should not have to get through the day. You should not have to get through life, because you deserve an amazing life. We all do. So if you think you might be perimenopausal, if you know you're perimenopausal, if you are at burnout, if you suffer from PMDD, if your mental health is on the ground, and you think you've got a little bit of bandwidth left just to explore this, I would really, really recommend it. And the simplest thing to do, you can either, pen and paper, or just get your notes out on your phone and just make a few notes about what you're feeling, what is going on with you, just to think, how was I 5 years ago? How would I approach this time of year 10 years ago? Have I, it's almost like when it's a gradual decline, we tend not to notice as much. But if we have that level of comparison and go, look, I know I'm not going to be the same woman, at 35 that I am at 45, but the difference is so jarring, might be something worth looking into. And of course, as well, there could be any other, underlying health issues that you really should always keep on top of. Just, I'll say it before, if there was anyone else around you, anyone you love and care about, who were experiencing these symptoms and having to go through this day by day, you would probably drag them kicking and screaming to doctors or to get help and support, and you would be nagging them. I know that we do struggle to do that for ourselves, but I'm here to tell you as well, I will nag you. And I will metaphorically drag you kicking and screaming to get some form of support. Even if that means you just want to message me, leave me a voice note, send me a DM, that is absolutely fine. But come on the forums, come into my own group, which is Battlefield Red, the Hormone Wars. We're very nice, and it's a very small group, but it's all a bit, we talk about hormones, stages of life, and it's all done with a bit of tongue-in-cheek and a bit of dry humour, which I think is what we need at this stage of life. Another thing I've got going on at the minute, I've decided to put my weekly shifts into a shift list newsletter. I'm thinking about titling it as, could this be the best goddamn newsletter you have ever read? Question mark. Because it could be, couldn't it? Because sometimes, I don't know about you, but I come out with these ideas at night when I can't sleep, in the shower, things like that, and I will just dump them down in my notes. I never really turn them into anything. Sometimes they can become a podcast episode, but usually they're just like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And I just think about all the ideas and the shifts and the wisdom that I have learned and acquired over the years, the things that have come to me, the what's the word? The epiphany, the epiphany moments, and the things that have really made a difference in my life. And sometimes they are so in your face simple that you go, duh, but they have made such a massive difference to me and really helped my shift, my growth, how I manage life, how I've got to certain points, how I've achieved certain things or not. And I thought, you know what, I could just turn that into a newsletter. And all I'll ask you to do is just to give me your email address, and then I'll send everyone this newsletter weekly. And it'll be by me, Anna, direct to your inbox. And that's it. Why not? I did have a very simple, thought-provoking shift this week, and I will share that with you now. I was watching some American crime documentary. It was more to do with forensics. As you know, I can't watch anything horror or grisly. It was just more to do with the science, and I just found it very interesting. And there was a family talking about the past, and they were talking about their family tree, etc. This was a family that they were American. I think it was a very beautiful scene. I think it was nearer to, sounds so ignorant, nearer to Canada. But it was very beautiful, and they lived very simply and very basic, and they had land, but there was no swimming pools or flash cars or anything like that. They had land, and it was a very simple existence, and they had their family around them. So there was 3 generations at least, lots of little grandkids running around. And the idea with all the land is they could just have fun, they could roam about freely, etc., etc. This has got nothing to do with the actual crime forensics. It was just, for some reason, I was doing some typing and I looked up and we started listening to this bit because there was a woman talking about the matriarch. She was talking about her family, and her family values and what matters to her. And she said, we do a lot as a family. She said, we have a real, baseline of happiness. We are very content. And it is just our purpose to always be there for each other, to support each other. And then she said, to grow together. And for some reason, I have never heard that. I've always heard families say, you be there for people in times of this and that, and we're supportive, and we'll watch the kids, and you always be there for your kids, etc. But to grow together, and we grow together. And for some reason, it just gave me tingles, because, as we know, if we don't grow, we're stagnant, we're stuck. We don't shift, we don't move, we get caught in a perpetual cycle. And it gave me a very deep feeling in that moment that a value, but also a purpose, a purpose of us being here in this life, in this world, in this universe, is to grow, is to evolve, is to change. I mean, obviously on a cellular, I can't say that with my brain, it's a cellular level, we do evolves. It's only every 7 years we're just made up of completely different cells. And I think back to myself and my lobster, and how much things have changed in the last 10 years for me. My environment, my dynamic, my family, my home, how I look, how I feel, how I present myself, my businesses. But what had happened if I hadn't have grown? And growth is uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. So therefore, what if we grow with support? Might be from family, might be from friends, other humans. What if it's that is the purpose of us, to grow together? I love growing with my lobster in general. Sometimes in the moment it's hard, it's uncomfortable. But I also think growth is expansive, and the only way to expand is to break free, and that can sometimes be really uncomfortable. I also feel that anyone who's listening to this and suffers with some of the issues that we talk about on here and the struggles, you're not someone to be stagnant. You're not someone who gives up. You're not someone to be caught in a loop of beige, or to go, I can't deal with this. If you've been through any of those struggles, babe, you can handle anything. You can handle that. You can cope with that. And growth is where it is. I think I vented a little bit there, but yeah, we grow together. So maybe we could grow together. Maybe this space, Her Shift, is where we all grow together and we get our shit sorted. And we go, do you know what? Enough's enough, and I'm not going to live like this anymore. I certainly am not. Who's with me? So thank you for sticking with me, especially this year, through my ups and downs and my vents, and the fact that, during a podcast episode, I will go off on tangents and I will have moments of brain fog. Or the fact that I can't sometimes string words together, or I lisp because of my braces. I appreciate you. Thank you. Let's grow together. Can I ask you a favour? Sole purpose of Her Shift is to grow, to be expansive, and to grow this podcast. And the only way I can do that is asking you to share it with people that you might think might be interested in it, and to rate, review, and subscribe. And that is all I'm going to ask for you. You don't need to sign up to anything. No. My newsletter would be nice, but you don't have to do that. I'm not going to try and sell you a course. I'm not going to try and sell you a membership. No. I just want to grow this podcast. And if you could do that for me, and we could support the algorithm, we could grow the algorithm, I'd be so indebted to you. So thank you very much in advance for that. Of course, all links to everything will be in the show notes as usual. If you need any support or you have any questions, please do message me or email me. I will always get back to you. It may not sound coherent when I do, but I will always get back to you. So until next time, please keep going. You are doing amazing. You are stronger than you think. You really are awesome. And as always, sending all my love.